many of the older people in the congregation will remember the church in which I was raised as a youngster. It was a church in which devotions were very much a part of the church. We had a series of devotions that took place every morning before the morning Mass, and there were a series of devotions that took place after the morning Mass. On every Wednesday, we had devotions to Our Lady of Perpetual Help, and on every Tuesday, we had devotions to the Infant of Prague. Friday nights, we had Stations of the Cross. I could go through an endless thing. The church was really about all kinds of devotions and prayers. People would get together 2 or 3 times a year and have processions in the town saying the Rosary. There were all kinds of things. And one of the things since Vatican II, we see much less of that in the church. And I'd like you to notice something very particular about the reading, which is just a detail in the reading, but it is something that has greatly affected the church in recent years. If you look at the teachings of Jesus, today we have the reading from the Gospel account of Luke. When Jesus is teaching the apostles, he will tell them to care for the poor. He will tell them to preach the gospel. He will tell them to be forgiving. He goes through a whole bunch of teachings. And isn't it interesting that when Jesus is clear with all those teachings, they have to ask him to teach them to pray? For Jesus, prayer was a very personal and private part of religion. And you'll watch that when Jesus teaches them, he doesn't give them his prayer. He says, you pray, this is what you're supposed to say. And he gives them the Lord's Prayer. And what we discover in that is that the great danger to religious people is that you and I will begin to think that religion is prayer. Prayer is the beginning and the heart of what religion is all about. But prayer, if it is the beginning and the end of religion, isn't religion at all. And so as Jesus taught, as Jesus preached, as Jesus was moving around the community, praying is something they saw him do, but praying is something he did not speak about, and he didn't tell them what to do. The church picked that up after the Vatican Council. And if you look at the church today, you'll end up seeing a lot more of the social things about feeding the poor, the giving tree. We have a lot of those things that go on in the parish. That becomes much more a part of the parish. And devotions are sort of a rare thing. We have devotions during Lent, and there's all kinds of private devotions that are encouraged. It was interesting to me a few years ago in a large gathering of Catholics to discover all the devotions that I know in my youth still exist in the church, although they tend to exist privately. There are people who say the Stations with a certain regularity. There are people who have devotion to Our Mother of Perpetual Help, and there are people who have devotion to the Infant of Prague. I could name a whole bunch of devotions. But the fact of the matter is that has become less a part of the public life of the church. And the reason is it was very little a part of the public life of Jesus. The public life of Jesus was caught in this whole move that the community should be socially aware and socially correcting of the society around them. Prayer is the personal relationship that you and I have with God. Outside the gathering of the Eucharist, where we celebrate the community itself, prayer oftentimes is a very, very private experience.